Welcome everyone, and today we are going to start a new chapter in JavaScript called DOM manipulation. So we are going to learn about the DOM or document object model. I have already mentioned that JavaScript will not be useful if we can't combine it together with HTML and CSS so we can manipulate the DOM. Now I just use this term DOM, but later on in this lecture I will explain what it means. Now just stick to the JavaScript. So JavaScript allows us to do some actions like adding a product to a cart or deleting the same item from that cart, right? Or even creating an image slider. So you have probably used this one already, but you never really knew about it, and probably it was all JavaScript behind it. So JavaScript is the client-side scripting language that connects to the DOM and modify the content, structure, or the styles of the website. But before I explain what DOM is, I want to let you know what JavaScript can do. Now, JavaScript can add HTML elements, can remove HTML elements, can add or remove HTML attributes. Also, it can change the CSS style. Also, JavaScript can create new or react to a new HTML events. Nice. So, in order for you to understand this, I know it's too much at this stage, but you need to understand two basic things. What is the DOM? And the second is, what is the JavaScript engine? And the DOM stands for Document Object Model. So how is the DOM created? Well, I'm just going to open a new slide here. Don't really worry about it. Oops, I don't need to modify this one. So at the very basic level, a website consists of a simple HTML markup and a basic CSS. Now, the idea is when we are using a browser on our computer, like Google Chrome, they will interpret the HTML and the CSS. And they will render the styles, the content, and the structure into a nicely looking page. Right? So that is the job of the browser. So they will interpret the HTML and CSS, and they will render the style, the content, and the structure into a nicely looking web page like this. So the browser, during the rendering phase, is also creating a DOM, and that is called Document Object Model. So why this is important for us? Well, because of this model, we can use JavaScript to access all of these elements that are inside the HTML and CSS. And we can do manipulation with them. We can change them, we can alter them, we can add, we can remove HTML tags, we can change styles, and things like that. So, how we can do this? Well, consider it like this. JavaScript will only work with objects. It cannot work with HTML tags and CSS. And by the way, you should have a basic knowledge of what HTML is or CSS is. If you don't have it, just look it on internet. It's very easy and very basic, and you will know what I'm trying to say. Now, so to recap, the browser, when load the page, it renders first the HTML and the CSS for that particular page. Then it creates the DOM. It's called Document Object Model that will later on be used by a JavaScript to manipulate all of this here, right? And what is this here? Well, this is called a JavaScript engine, right? But before this, let me just open the browser. So open the Google Chrome, for example, and type example.com. Now, example.com is a domain for use in illustrative examples and documents. So if you do right click, inspect, it will open the developer tools. Now inside here, if I go console and if I type document, like this. Now if I expand this one, I will see that I have the doc type, the HTML tag, I will have the head. Inside the head I have title, meta tags, the styles, and this is, by the way, inline style, right? Some basic color like this. This is a little bit gray color. Okay, now I do have the body. These are the closing tags. I do have the body. Inside I have a div. Here it is. When I hover it, the div, it shows me on the page what I'm trying to see, right? So I have h1 example domain, and I have p tags, and I have two p tags. One is the description, the other one is the link for more information. And that's pretty much it. So this is what we have in the document. But what else can we do? So if we just go over to these element tabs, I already have the same basic thing. So DOM is a built object that has many methods, as you can see here. And these methods are properties that we can use and change all of these tags here that we have, right? So we can modify the HTML and CSS. For example, the body here, this body, let me just close this one. So the body is a property of this document, right? That's why the document has access to the body. Okay, now the second thing that you need to understand is how JavaScript Engine is working. So the browser has its own JavaScript engine, like V8 on Google. Every browser has a different engine. Safari has Nitro, Firefox has a Spider Monkey, and so on. So how do you think we get all the access of all our JavaScript variables in our console so we can run JavaScript code here? Remember, we have done that previously. Well, that is the job of the browser JavaScript engine. Let me go back here. So this engine actually reads JavaScript file line by line and execute it. So now you know, DOM give us the structure as an object, so we can use that object later on for JavaScript. And the JavaScript engine gives us access to those elements so we can manipulate them and we can transform them into something beautiful. That's why I gave this project a code name like that, because we change and evolve our document with the help of JavaScript. So again, JavaScript. So you know that JavaScript now gives us the access to all of these DOM elements. And any changes will be represented here in this page. So probably we can change the background. We can do things with the help of JavaScript. And now let's see something very interesting. Before we have used a window object. So if you ask a question, well, DOM is just an object, but what is the parent of that object? Well, let's see. If I do window and hit return or enter, and if I expand it here, there is all kinds of methods and properties. But look here. Again, I do have this document, and I do have access to its properties, right? Now, the document lives inside the window object. So window.document, it will still give us the previous DOM, right? Document object model. So that's why we don't even need to use dot to access it with this dot notation, because it's there. And that's why in this image, here's the window object. Inside we have the DOM, right? Now, again, what is the body? So the body is a property of the DOM. So let's manipulate the DOM through JavaScript. So document dot body. Now I'm accessing with the dot notation because it's an object, right? So the objects we are accessing with the dot notation. Let's add the style and background color like this, and set any background color that you want, red, and hit enter. Look what happened. Now if I go back to the elements tab, I can see that body style has its own background color. So we added an attribute. Wow, this is so powerful, right? Now, but something strange will happen. So I added this attribute with the help of JavaScript, and JavaScript manipulate the DOM because the DOM gave us the access to all of this. But if I refresh now, it returns back to normal. Why is that? Well, we didn't change the source code. So if I open if you view the page, right click here, view page source, and it will open this, right? Okay, let me do it again. In the console, do it again. Now, again, view page source. Now, if you compare these two, see, in the body, I don't have any data attribute here. And same here, I don't have it. Why? Well, we didn't change the source code. What we did, we add the attribute through the JavaScript, because the HTML and the CSS was rendered as they were originally from when the browser were loading. And now we use a JavaScript to make some changes. That's it. So make sure that you know the difference. Now, again, when this browser is started, it renders this CSS and HTML to produce this web page, but in the same time creates this DOM so we can have access to all of this. Why? Because later on with JavaScript, we can access them and change some things, right? We can manipulate those elements. And why we can use them? Well, because they're objects, and JavaScript love objects. It's built on objects, right? Okay, and for that we need the engine. So I hope you understand this lecture, and if you don't, just please make sure that you watch this one again. I want you to understand, because if you do, it will be pretty much easy from now on. So I hope that you had a great day, and I will see you in the next one.